Pocket English Podcast
from your pocket.
Welcome to Pocket English, where we help you talk about real life in simple, natural English. Today, we are going to drop a glass of red juice on the floor to show you a vocabulary mistake almost every English learner makes. Imagine it is dinner time. Your elbow bumps a cup. Crash. Dark red juice is everywhere on your light carpet. You panic. I remember when this happened to me at a friend's house and my mind went totally blank. I yelled, "Bring the broom," instead of asking for a towel, and it was so embarrassing. By the end of this short episode, you will know the exact wet versus dry English verbs to handle any household accident smoothly and confidently. It really is a terrible feeling when you make a mess in someone else's house, or even in your own house, and you do not have the right words to ask for help. When an accident happens, your heart beats fast. You feel shocked. You want to fix the problem immediately. But if you freeze up, or if you ask for the wrong cleaning tool, it just adds to the panic. The biggest mistake we see is students using the same one or two verbs for every single type of mess. They say, "I need to clean the water," or "I need to wash the floor." While people will understand you, it does not sound like natural English. Exactly. Native speakers use very specific phrasal verbs depending on whether the mess is dry or wet. Let us start with dry accidents. A few weeks ago, I was carrying a huge bowl of dry potato chips into the living room. I tripped over the edge of the rug, and the bowl flew out of my hands. Oh no, what a disaster! Notice the verb Jack just used. He said the bowl flew out of his hands. When you are holding something and it falls to the floor, we use the verb drop. You drop your keys, you drop a book, you drop a bowl of chips. Right, I dropped the bowl, and because the chips were dry, they shattered into hundreds of pieces across the wooden floor. So how do we clean a dry mess like that? First, you have to deal with the big pieces. You use your hands. The phrasal verb here is pick up. I picked up the big potato chips. We use the simple past tense picked up with an ed at the end because the action is already finished. You always want to use the past tense when you are explaining an accident that just happened. So I picked up the large chips and threw them in the trash. But what about all the tiny crumbs left on the floor? You cannot pick up 100 tiny crumbs with your hands. It would take hours. That's when you need a tool. You need a broom, and the verb we use with a broom is sweep up. Sweep up. The past tense is swept up. This is a very important rule. You only sweep dry things. You sweep up dirt, you sweep up dust, you sweep up dry cereal, you sweep up chips. I swept up the rest of the chips with the broom. It took me 10 minutes, but the floor was finally clean. So for a dry mess, remember those two steps. Pick up the big pieces with your hands and sweep up the small pieces with a broom. By the way, if you are finding these natural vocabulary tips helpful, take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. We release simple, natural English lessons like this all the time to help you sound more fluent in your daily life. Now, let us talk about the really scary accidents, the wet disasters. Let us go back to that glass of dark red juice from the beginning of the episode. Imagine you're sitting at the dining table. The glass of juice is resting on the table. You reach across the table to grab the salt, and your elbow hits the glass. The glass falls over. The liquid goes everywhere. Notice the difference here. You did not drop the glass because you were not holding it in your hands. It was resting on the table. When you hit something by accident and cause it to fall over, we use the phrasal verb knock over. The past tense is knocked over. I knocked over the glass. I knocked over the vase of flowers. I knocked over my coffee cup. It's a very common accident. So you knocked over the red juice, it's spreading across the table, it's dripping onto the floor. This is where I made my embarrassing mistake years ago. I panicked and yelled, "Bring the broom." And why is that funny to a native speaker? Because, as we learned, brooms are only for dry things. If you try to sweep up liquid, you'll just push the red juice all over the room and make a huge, sticky mess. You cannot sweep water. You definitely cannot sweep water. So what should you say instead? If the liquid is on a raised surface, like a table or a kitchen counter, you need a cloth or a paper towel. The verb you use is wipe off. I wiped off the table. I wiped off the counter. You move the cloth across the surface to remove the liquid.
But what if a lot of liquid spilled on the floor? A tiny cloth is not enough. If you have a huge puddle of water or juice on the floor, you need a mop. A mop is the tool with a long handle and thick strings or sponges at the bottom, designed specifically for water. The verb is mop up.
I mopped up the juice. You can also use the verb soak up. Think of a sponge. When you put a dry sponge in water, it drinks the water. It pulls the liquid inside. That action is called soaking up.
I grabbed a thick towel and soaked up the red juice from the carpet. So for wet messes, you wipe off tables, you mop up hard floors, and you soak up liquids from carpets using a towel or sponge.
Learning the difference between wet and dry cleaning verbs will make you sound so much more natural. You will never ask for a broom to clean up a spilled glass of water again.
To make sure you really feel confident with these phrases, let us practice them together. We are going to do a slow role play. I will play the clumsy guest who just spilled something, and Emma will play the helpful host.
I want you to listen to how we use the past tense verbs. When we finish the short conversation, we will pause and ask you to repeat the sentences out loud to practice your pronunciation. Here we go.
Oh no, I am so sorry, Emma. I just knocked over my cup of tea. It is everywhere.
Oh, please do not worry about it. Accidents happen. Did it get on your clothes?
No, I'm fine, but the tea is all over the table. I can wipe off the table if you have a paper towel.
I'll grab a towel for you right now. Oh, look, some of it dripped onto the floor. I'll get the mop so I can mop up that puddle.
Thank you so much. I feel terrible.
It is really no problem at all. Okay, out of character now. Let us break down those useful past tense phrases. We're going to say the phrase, and I want you to say it out loud wherever you are right now. Repeating out loud trains your mouth muscles to speak English naturally.
Repeat after me. I knocked over the tea.
Say it out loud. I knocked over the tea.
Excellent. Notice how the D sound at the end of knocked connects to the O in over. Knocked over, knocked over.
Let us try the next one. Repeat after me. I wiped off the table.
Say it with us. I wiped off the table.
Great job. Again, the sounds link together. Wiped off the table.
And one more. Repeat after me. I mopped up the puddle.
Your turn. I mopped up the puddle.
Beautiful. You are sounding more like a native speaker already. Mopped up.
Now that you have practiced the pronunciation, it's time for a quick challenge to test your memory. We call this the right tool, right verb quiz.
I'm going to describe a sudden accident. Then we will give you 3 seconds to shout out the correct cleaning verb before we give you the answer. You have to decide if it's a wet mess or a dry mess. Are you ready?
Scenario number 1. You're cooking breakfast. You open the refrigerator and you accidentally drop a carton of raw eggs on the kitchen floor. They smash everywhere. It's wet and slimy. Do you sweep it up or do you mop it up? Tell us your answer out loud.
If you said mop it up, you are absolutely right. Raw eggs are a wet liquid mess, so you cannot use a broom. You need to mop them up or wipe them up with a heavy towel.
Scenario number 2. You're pouring a bowl of dry cereal in the morning. The box slips out of your hand. You drop the box and hundreds of dry pieces of cereal cover the floor. Do you wipe off the cereal or do you sweep up the cereal? Say your answer now.
If you chose sweep up, fantastic job. Cereal is dry. You would grab a broom and a dustpan to sweep up the pieces. Wiping it would not work at all.
Let us do one final scenario, and this one is a little tricky. It's a combination. You're carrying a glass jar of pasta sauce. It slips from your hands. You drop the jar, the glass breaks into pieces, and the wet red tomato sauce splashes all over the kitchen floor. What do you do first?
This is a real nightmare to clean, but think about the steps we learned. First, you have a dry danger, the broken glass. You carefully use your hands to pick up the big pieces of glass.
Exactly. You pick up the glass, but you can't sweep the rest because there's wet tomato sauce everywhere. So after you pick up the big pieces of glass, you grab a thick paper towel or a mop and you wipe off the sauce, or mop up the mess.
You handled that perfectly. Household accidents happen to everyone, no matter how careful you are. You don't need to feel embarrassed when you spill or drop something. And now you never have to feel embarrassed about your English when it happens either. We want to hear your accident stories. What was the last thing you accidentally spilled, dropped, or knocked over at home? Go down to the comments right now and tell us the story. Make sure you use the past tense verbs we practiced today, like dropped, knocked over, and mopped up, so you can lock this vocabulary into your memory.
Now that you know the exact verbs to use for cleaning, you need to make sure you know the English names for all the tools in your house. Click on our next quick episode about kitchen tools and cleaning supplies, so you will always know exactly what to ask for when a mess happens. See you in the next lesson.